Brother John. Are you there?
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Hey, hold on a second. Foxhole Atheist, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. I just saw this and decided I'd join.
Cool. I don't think we ever met before.
No, I don't think we have. Well, anyway, my name is Randy.
Hey, Randy. John, as you expect.
I see stuff from you on Google Plus once in a while.
Okay. I hope you find some interest in it.
So what are you up to today?
Just figured I'd throw a hangout up. There was only one other hangout going, and that I was interested in, but it was full. you know,
Okay.
and I just figured, yeah, throw up a hangout. I was just about to close because I was waiting here like 15 minutes, and it's like nobody was showing up. I was just about to close it down. So thanks for showing up.
Is there a live chat that goes with this?
We are live right now, actually.
You're right, but on the YouTube watch page, is there a live chat that goes with this?
Um, you want like a YouTube link?
Yeah, like a watch list.
Um, ooh, that's a good
Let me ask you
question.
this: did you make it from Google Plus or did you make it from YouTube?
Google Plus.
All right, it won't have a live chat then.
Okay. Yeah, I know it'll after it's done, it'll upload to YouTube.
Yeah.
Afterwards.
Yeah, you can make an event from YouTube the same exact way that you do from Google Plus, except that when you make it from YouTube, it has a live chat that accompanies the watch page.
Hmm.
Oh, okay, cool. Thank you, Darn. I may actually remake my. Well, no, I'm not going to do so much of live chat in mine, but I'll have to remember that. Do it from YouTube.
Yeah.
So,
I try
How
to
you
give
doing?
people tips whenever I can. I don't know if you guys know, I'm president of Secular TV, and basically what we do is we try to teach people how to build live shows, more or less. All the different things accompanied with making live shows and progressing them and making them better and et cetera, et cetera.
well, I'm going to try and stay low key, but I was feeling really nostalgic because I was going through, you know, collections of shows and stuff I had, and I decided to do a show on nostalgic sources. And so, you can reflect upon the things that have had an impact in our lives in the various fields we've chosen, or even just our hobbies that we've chosen. So,
But yeah, it's not too rough. If you go to YouTube, if you want, I'll show you this real quick.
Okay.
You
I
go to
take
you
it.
just go to your video manager. Go to yours will say live streaming or live events. The channels look a little different now, but either way, go into this thing right under Video Manager. Go to your events. Right up here in the top corner, new live event, and you punch in all the info. The difference is it's already enabled, but right here, enable live chat. And so making your events from YouTube, and so right here, you do this quick custom using Google Hangouts on Air. So when it's done, it gives you you a thing like this right here, Start Hangout on Air.
Oh,
And that
cool.
works from there. After that, it works exactly the same way as Google Plus.
Oh,
And
sweet.
will it show up on the Google Plus feed as well?
I'm not sure if it automatically shows up, but if you want to share it, you do have to go in and manually share it. But you can do that pretty easy by just clicking that, or you can right click and do, if you want to keep that there, new tab. Um, anyway, I usually just go from here and share to Facebook and Google, and those automatically go out to Twitter, so I don't usually have to do that one. So that's usually how I do it. I share out to Google, go down here, click all my stuff, following. Well, I don't know if you guys can see that menu because I'm sharing a single window.
I could see it. That was very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah. And then from there, you just click in and add all your groups, circles, following, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, Opal, I was asking for a link earlier for your other the chat you had earlier. You had Patrick in there and someone else, I think.
Yeah, we ended up being short because everybody kind of had to go, so we decided we would reschedule part 2 of it this evening, and it's 9:30 my time, and it's almost 6:30 now. It's 6:21 right now. So just less than well, I'll start handing things. Oh, if you got nostalgic things to talk about, I'll invite you in because I'd like to hear all the various interesting things.
Sure, I might be able to make that later.
I'm trying to be mildly restrictive against I'm not gonna allow Fizzbomb in because he's a flat earther. And I'm not gonna
is he?
Yeah, he invited me into a hangout, and he was all up into the flat earth thing, and it was just like, whoa. I don't know if he was being a Poe. I don't know him that well, but he was all solid. When I was in there, he was all solid. The earth is flat. I'm like, oh. My brother's flown in a plane. I've flown in a plane a couple times. I've seen the curvature of the earth. I've actually seen one lunar eclipse. That's when it's the moon gets eclipsed. You can see the shape of the earth. I mean, if it was flat, you would initially see like you take a coin and you make a shadow of the coin and you turn a coin. Yeah, there would be those cues.
If the Earth were flat, GPS wouldn't work.
Yep.
And if the Earth weren't round and the satellites for GPS weren't, basically spinning against the Earth in space to maintain their orbit, you would basically need constant propulsion in a flat Earth model to keep them up there where they are in order for them to work.
Oh yeah, I take it you've listened to Cool Hard Logic's videos because that's exactly what he quoted.
Oh really?
Yeah, I'm fairly certain in Cool Hard Logic. He initially came. If I'm getting it right, he initially came on and he was doing the whole flat Earth and geocentrism. Yeah.
Yeah, we did an episode with astronomer, mathematician, computer scientist, and patron of secular TV, Landon Kurt Knoll. He's an awesome scientist. And we had him and King Crocoduck on an episode of a show I do, This Might Get Vulgar, where we took on a lot of pseudoscience like that, flat Earth, really extreme, crazy, of the bad science. That was
Flat Earth.
2 weeks ago.
Flat Earthers think the sun is flat as well, and all the planets and the moon, everything's flat.
Oh, some of them actually believe planets are
the same size. They're small and they're the same size, is what a lot of them say.
Yep, that's it. Some of them actually think some of the planets are fake. Don't ask me. Don't even ask me.
Okay.
Oh, trying to think of the channel. I was looking it up. Stars Are Soul, I think. I think that's the one that was trying to argue that some of the planets are fake. Or if they were real, they're no bigger than Saddam.
Well, the people like those kind of people who believe those kind of things are the primary reason why I'm not an anti-theist. We kind of like desperately need moderate believers to kind of help reform a religion, any religion. And so, yeah, having believers speak out against people like those is one of the easiest ways to reform a religion.
Yeah, like I don't have a problem with belief. If you're moderate, or at least you're keeping things to yourself, I mean that's fine and dandy. But when you start demanding legislation, school curriculum, or even the changes to the budget based off of the country's budget or region's budget, based on those beliefs, and I start going, no. Come with the evidence first.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you, old boy. You know, I don't pretty much care what you believe. Just don't try to, make it a law, institute it in the schools. You know.
And
Yeah.
so I don't know much about you guys. What do you got? I mean, I've got a shirt with my thing on it. So
Oh, I'm an atheist. Don't worry. Don't worry.
you're an atheist. What about you, Brother John?
I am a deist with pantheistic leanings, I like to say.
Actually, to be more accurate, I'm an atheist who is looking to see if he can become a deist, but I won't move to the deist position without proper evidence.
I like arguing from deism when I argue directly with Christians quite a bit. Just to show them, like, even if you take the assumption of, sure, there's a God, you still can't get to Christianity. There's still no reason to
Exactly.
think it's true.
Yeah, precisely. There's so many other possibilities. There's
It
so
becomes
many other possibilities.
Yeah, it becomes a giant big leap there because now, then what it comes down to is showing the validity of the Bible. You know.
And
I'm
personally,
sorry.
I can actually see, I can kind of, hypothetically see a universe that in which there is a creator God. I don't actively believe that, but is it a possibility? Sure. I don't have any evidence, to support that hypothesis yet, but I certainly think it's possible. I just don't think it would be probably what we've envisioned, you know?
Well, it'll be whatever it is, but as I said, I won't move to that position until I get at least sufficient evidence to warrant the belief. But there's ideas I have that would be nice, but as I said, I won't move to those positions just because I think they would be nice.
Let me ask you, Brother John, do you have some compelling arguments for deism for us?
You know what? I don't have an argument that you probably haven't heard already. It'll be first cause, prime mover. That kind of thing. An argument from design, things that, and I would outright say it is a faith. I was a Christian for 30 years, different denominations, and I've had experiences, and I always say my experiences or anyone's experiences is not going to be a plumb line for truth. And even though after being confronted with some questions and stuff about Christianity, and then re-examining what I believe and why I had to leave the faith, when it came to experiences, and some experiences that I do have, I guess I have to attribute it to a God or it's a spiritual experience. And I'm not here to prove anything to anybody or have to, you have to believe what
No,
I believe. It's nothing like that. I just think it's reasonable to think that that everything came from some kind of source. I would call it a source. And I don't even think there was a beginning there. I tell you the truth. I think us humans, we have this. I don't know. There's something inside of us. I mean, we're the only species that asks the question why. And I think there's something in us that says there has to be some kind of cause or beginning. When I'm at a point where I just accept that everything just is. It is. It was. Always is. And that thing is source. That's how I see it. And so when I say I have, so that's where my deist kind of attitude comes. There's no God intervening personally with anybody. Just kind of, created the laws of nature, put everything in motion, and everything pretty much had to evolve from there. We kind of had to figure it out after that. My pantheistic leanings comes from my experiences of feeling a connection to nature. feeling, sensing, that everything is interdependent. There's no denying that. There's so many complex systems, and everything is interdependent upon one another. So I guess that's where my pantheistic ideas come from. And hence, when I say we are God, I, I, um, ultimately, I believe that everything is God, and it's just an expression of that source. I'm God just having a John experience. That's how I like to put it. Christians don't like that. A lot of fundies and people from Abrahamic faiths don't like that. But if everything ultimately comes from source, then I'm just an expression of that. I'm like the painting, on the canvas of, of source's canvas, that kind of thing.
Hey, I thought that was very beautiful. That was a very beautiful view. I don't know if that's just me, but I thought it was a very beautiful view.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, there's a lot of little pieces of it that I very much agree with. I just see them a slightly different way. Me, I take a lot of joy, personal, for whatever reason. Why do I like chocolate more than vanilla? I don't know. But I take a lot of personal joy in the realization of what I am. That I'm a species, I'm part of a species that is part of a chain of unbroken life, has been here on this earth for quite some time, probably billions of years, that has survived everything Mother Nature had to throw at us. We've survived the hurricanes, the tornadoes, the earthquakes, volcanoes, disease, drought, meteor impacts. You name it, we made it. And so I take a lot of personal joy in realizing that I'm part of that unbroken chain of life that has made it and survived and thrived against all those odds. And so I look at that bigger picture, and I feel like, this almost certainly must happen on other planets. It almost certainly, at least in some cases, not happen quite like ours. It's got to be radically different. And that makes me think that if there is a God, it's not the kind of God that's so interested in us specifically, as in this whole creation of the universe. It would have to be on this massive scale we almost can't even imagine, because the universe is just too big, and there's just nothing in this whole damn universe that happens only once. I mean, everything we look at, we see multiple examples of so far, except life, and I don't think we're so far away from that. So,
Cool.
Oh, that's kind of cool too. So,
I want to welcome Tommy and Joe. Two of the coolest peeps on G Plus.
Oh yeah, they're great. I like Tommy. I've just met Joe. So, hey Joe, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
hey guys.
Takes one to know one, cool peep.
I'm Randy.
I'm just a humble little old dragon.
Oh.
Wiggling among giants.
There you go.
So we were
Joe,
yeah.
Go ahead, Joe. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, if I, maybe I could go next to say, first of all, I'm. Some would call me agnostic. Some would call me atheist. I don't think that I have enough intelligence to really figure out what's going on. I can only speak from my perspective, and so I agree with you, Foxhole, that there's, there doesn't seem to be enough evidence to bridge it over to the Christian, the Judeo-Christian model. But I will say that I agree with you too. I'm not anti-theist in any way, because I've known some great folks. I think how we treat each other is far more important than the superficial ideologies we happen to dress ourselves up in. So, and a lot of times those are tribal anyway. But I will say, when I think about the bigger picture, I know that reality is self-aware, at least to the degree that I think I am self-aware and that others are self-aware. I'm not a solipsist. I don't think that everything's a projection of myself. And so to what degree that echoes outward, I know that awareness seems to exist on a lot of different levels, from microbial to what we experience, and I can conceive a plausible greater being, but I don't think that necessitates any kind of what we conceptualize as humans of being this omnipotent, omniscient God. And so, I include in the realm of possibilities the fact that there might be something greater than we can perceive, that we might be part of something greater. But what that is, I don't know. And plus, I think there's plenty of bigger fish to fry right here and now. So we can cultivate our experience of life here and now. This is the water that we can stick our oar into. Let's deal with this first, and then get to wherever that takes us.
Just to add a little thing, and also a bit of a question: would it be safe to say that, kind of like me, you're anti-asshole?
Anti-asshole.
Yeah, I mean, we just wanna, squash them down and just say, play nice.
Well, I don't actually. I have sympathy for the asshole. All of us are due to some, so we develop asshole first in utero. So some of us get stuck there. But I do think that people that express an aggressive tone on the outside. I know how animals react to fear. They fight or flight, and so people that are assholes, at some point in time are probably experienced trauma and they're handling it somehow. I don't feel qualified to judge. Yeah.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am a anti-analist. Yes.
Well, see, because I make two shows.
Sorry.
One is called Yelling at Stupid People, and the other one's called This Might Get Vulgar, where we tell pretty much a whole array of the most vulgarest jokes you can think of. We mansplain the patriarchy while manspreading the gay agenda. And so, and there is a fear, honestly, there. There's a fear that censorship will take over society. That, my children are going to grow up in a world where laws are going to govern their body. There's a lot of fear there that I react to when I look at certain things in life that, for me, compels me to yell about it, to get angry, to be motivated, to try and inspire others to be like, hey, we should be pissed off about this. And so, for me, sure, there's an element of fear there, but there's also a little bit of hope in working toward a correction for it by, making sure that people are aware of, hey, this is a thing that's a problem.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Listen, I don't have. I think fight is appropriate. If you're getting approached by a bear and you can either fight or flight, that's an appropriate response. So I think where it falls down is when you have some kind of a fear that's just expressed when it's not, when reality isn't presenting a real fear that's conjured up in your mind and you're living with that and responding to that fear that is not there. I think that's when we run into problems. So realistically pushing back for what we believe in and all of that, defending a position of validity as a human being, I can understand that. I don't have any issue with that.
Yeah, I would second.
What, Tommy, you were. It looked like you had something to say.
Oh,
Yeah,
I just do antics in the background sometimes. Thank you, though, Joe. About the only thing I could say is that, yes, I do act like an asshole, and I even have an asshole. I even own one. I manage one, and I like to see each other as growing. I like to do that. That helps. That helps me not get indignant, which is kind of close to anger, but a little bit different. Being, indignation, the emotion of indignation, a little bit different than being pissed off, but maybe, but I don't know. But yeah, but thank you, Joe. Thank you. Good to see you again, sir.
Good to see you too.
Let me pose a question to you. Something I usually say a lot. What do you think about this statement? I mean, because, listen, how many times is the great debate going on, right? I mean, the same thing over and over. People who I see pretending on both extremes of the fence, because I do believe there is a not just a fundamental Christian, but I do believe there are fundamental atheists as well. So this debate's been going on and on for centuries. But I think in the end, and tell me what you think about this statement, that we are all agnostic with our own leanings or biases. Ultimately, we are all agnostic. Maybe we're not. We don't want to admit it, but that's how I see it. That's how I'm seeing everything, everybody.
I don't know. I can only speak for myself. I hate to say that, but I mean that. I can only speak for myself, that I consider myself, even though I hold belief in Christ Jesus, to be agnostic. The sky has not opened up. I do not have his cell phone number, and the conclusions, the surmisings that I hold about this supernatural, unprovable deity, they are just surmisings based on experience, and they are not factoids. They are not fact, and I do not know. So yeah, for me, I can say, yeah, I am agnostic, one who is agnostic and yet holds belief, usually during waking hours. Others, atheists who say, like our Sydney, he says, I know that there is no God. Maybe he does somehow. Maybe he is somehow has knowledge. And then there's other fundy-minded believers who say, I know that I know in every fiber of my being, and I don't believe them. I don't believe them. Maybe they have had the sky opened up. Maybe they've ascended into the third heaven or the 15th heaven or whatever. But I don't believe the knowers. I believe that most likely, most us human beings here on G Plus or in greater reality are agnostic, that we do not know, and that some of us speak and feel very presumptuously as if we do know. Yeah, based on emotions, you know. Some say they know out of fear. I know that there's not this, or I know that there is this. I think they do it out of fear.
Too, and it's also like a fortification they built. It's both an offensive and defensive tactic, because as you know, you build a strong building, and you'll strike fear into your opponents.
You know, it's an interesting question, like how certain can you be about anything? And I think ultimately you have to allow for some possibility of error. I mean, you know, I've had this chair sitting out here for a while, and I have pretty good, you know, experience with the chair. I have pretty good evidence with other such chairs to reasonably assert that, you know, for the most part, every single time I come sit in this chair, it's gonna hold me. It's gonna, you know, and that's the kind of knowledge I can feel extremely comfortable in. I can say I have a very high degree of certainty, right? But one day this chair will fucking break, right? It's not going to last forever, and in my mind, I know this. I also have experienced this with chairs, that one day it will break, and so you can't even say something as simple as, I have absolute certainty this chair is going to hold me. But you can say that I have, like, say, a 99% it's going to hold me every time.
Maybe to help you a little bit here, as I've come to understand it, the only thing you can be absolutely certain of is if you're processing stimuli, processing what you see, what you feel, what you smell, then you know that there's something processing it. Because if there wasn't, you wouldn't exist. Because you wouldn't be. But beyond that, you know, yes, you're always going to have doubt. There'll never be an absolute 100% spot on 100% of anything, because at that point. But that being said, you can't, even if we are in a fake reality or whatever, you have to function as if it's a reality. And from there, it's like, that's all you can go on, you know. And I mean,
Littlefoot said this very well, just to back that up. So he says he makes 4 base assumptions, right? I assume I exist, because you're making that assumption based on that I have stimuli coming in and out, and that stimuli tells me there's a reality around me. So I assume I exist. I assume the universe exists, that we can learn something about that universe, and that models with predictive power are more useful than models without.
you're right.
Based on those 4 assumptions, I think you can make I think that you can kind of almost explain reality, that at least the reality we occupy.
Yeah, I have to agree. And thank you. You know what? I almost forgot. That's another thing that we can consume. That we are in some sort of reality. Doesn't matter what it is. We are in some sort of reality. If we exist, then we exist in something. So that's actually 2 things you can confirm absolutely. You may be on the second thing. You may be wrong what it is, but it is something.
You are experiencing a reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I tip my fictional hat to you.
Well, and then I think that the third one seems to be self-demonstrable. Whether or not your information is accurate, that remains to be said. But I experience learning new things about the universe that I put into practice in reality that seem to have effects. And so I think the third assumption is a safe assumption as well. We can learn things about this reality we experience.
And I think that's the thing. I don't know if you realize it, but you nailed it there. We can, whatever we're experiencing within that reality, that we can make judgments based on its accuracy because of its reflection based due to our stimuli. And that
leads into the 4th.
Yeah. So it gives it a very actually, in a way, it does give it a very sound foundation. It's just I mean, as I said, there are always going to be little gaps that we can't be 100% certain on, but for the most part, we can be certain on those things.
Yeah. And so if you assume that because, there was a time where I was unaware of sex, then I learned about sex. There was a time where I was unaware of other languages, then I became aware of other languages. And in this learning process, you can say, take a language, and you can go attempt to learn it, and then test that model of a language against others using that model, right? In other words, you just go speak to someone in Spanish and see if it works. Can you understand them? Can they understand you? And assuming that it works and you can indeed understand each other, you can then make predictions with this model, meaning, if this person says this, then they want me to do that. And if I go do that and they look pleased, then the test of my model has worked, right? And so that leads you into the 4th assumption, which is that models with predictive power are more useful than models without predictive power.
Bingo. You nailed it.
Excellent. I agree that everything after something exists has a certain probabilistic nature, and that there are some things that are both novel and useful that we ought to hang on to because of their predictive power.
Yeah. I mean, like gravity. We basically already know that there are problems with our model of gravity. But the vast majority of that model works to such a high degree of accuracy that you can't toss out the model. It works. I mean, even if you were considering that, okay, we've missed something, or maybe like plasma cosmology, maybe there's some electrical dynamics that hasn't been considered into the gravity model. But either way, it still makes these stunningly accurate predictions again and again and again and again. We use it to put satellites into orbit and go out to Pluto, and I think now the Voyager 1 is outside of the sun's heliosphere, and so the model works even if it has flaws. And so recognizing that it has flaws is very useful, but the model, I think, has proved its usefulness.
I've always put down to science to being like the resolution of a picture. I mean, every time we progress, we get a higher and higher definition of picture, allowing us to see more and more detail. And that's what it is. It's there. No matter the the scientific theory, there's always going to be the potential for a higher for a more accurate or basically higher resolution theory.
There is a possibility we're getting lost in our own little words too, and I'm not making an accusation here, just trying to throw a probabilistic hat into the ring. I know that there are things that go on in reality that sort of perplex me when I consider the fact that we humans kind of afford ourselves this polite possible fiction that we're at the pinnacle of intelligence, and yet I see a little rabies virus going after, it's able to infiltrate and alter mammalian physiology to such a degree that it changes behaviors in order to replicate itself. And, to me, the kinds of things that go on so many different levels foretell or at least, suggest to me that there's a possibility that there is some kind of perspicacity, some kind of depth perception that goes on at other levels than what we may be aware of. And with that in mind, I do, for instance, if you took rabies into court, the question of premeditation might be on the table. And I'm not saying that it is, again, I'm not making an assertion, I'm just trying to throw something into the probabilistic ring here and say that there may be intelligence beyond what we commonly think of in terms of our verbal language that we shut off and are increasingly shutting off as a result of the directions we're pursuing in science. So, and I'm not saying this is true, I'm saying it's possible that we are blinding ourselves.
Well, I want to say this, there certainly is. For example, recently, I don't agree with the example giving, but for example, there was largely thought that insects are mostly just responsive to things. I'm looking for the word, and it's not coming to me. Instinctive. A lot of their responses were instinctive. However, they've been able to recently. There's a paper that I think pretty substantially supports the concept that no, they have feelings, that they have desires. I mean, they're certainly not the level that we have. They're not the complex emotional thoughts that we have, because the neurochemistry isn't there. But the basic chemistry to react in desires and things that are non-desirable, these are certainly cognitive ideas that a lot of insects are having with certain chemistry. But if you look at a virus, like in biology, I'm not sure if they've maybe figured this out now, but the last I heard, they were still arguing whether or not a virus is even life. It's a difference of being effective versus forethought. A virus can be extremely effective and be a very, very simple thing that's just basic chemistry.
Yeah, and I'm saying that I don't even think we're qualified. We are certainly qualified to differentiate between biological and non-biological, but we do not even have the acumen to determine what is alive and what is not. That is pretty clear.
I would put that exactly reversed. I would say that I think that the argument still going whether or not a virus is even life kind of disproves the first statement, and then the second one, we have quantified that insects experience this on this level. We can quantify the dog and cat experience. These are quantifiable things, that they experience things in very similar fashions, but because of the simple neurochemistry, basically, in terms of a brain, the more connections you have, the more complicated thought becomes.
You are
demonstrate this.
You are speaking though from an anthropocentric. I forget. Pardon my syllabic word salad there. An anthropocentric view. I think I may be mispronouncing the word, but I'm just saying that we assume that things with neurophysiology and that have consciousness and other things don't. I'm saying we're not qualified to make that assertion. It may be true. That what you're saying may be true, and everything you said may be entirely on target. I'm just saying that we don't. The jury's still out in a lot of ways that we sort of rule things out without evidence base at this time. And again, I don't want you to hear me making any assertions. I'm just saying that we have artificially ruled things out that we might have done a little bit prematurely. That's all.
Well, I mean, there's a sense in which I agree, but then I would say I don't, because we have the evidence to say, you know, based on everything we experience, we don't have any kind of example in which it would arise. It's a lot of people, at least a smart scientist, certainly wouldn't rule it out. Life could be electronic based, you know, completely electrical neurochemistry. It's possible. But until we see it, we don't have a good example of it. But even if you look at these broader things and say, like, well, what about life outside of our planet? We don't have good evidence for that, but we actually kind of do. We do have good, strong reasons to think it's very probable. But in terms of, you know, like a virus that thinks, we don't have any good, strong reason to think that's probable. There's no reasons to think it's probable, like we have with thinking that planets might exist where biochemistry emerged outside of Earth. There's a lot of probable reasons for that. And so I wouldn't say that they've artificially or just generically ruled it out. I think they've ruled it out because we haven't experienced anything that would lead us to believe it's likely. Maybe not that it's not impossible, just we haven't experienced anything that makes us think this might occur.
Yeah, because we're looking for it in biological form. So that's what I'm saying. And again, I want to make sure that I'm being clear that I'm not asserting that anything else is other than biology may be the thing that's alive, and other matter may be inanimate as we sort of talk. But I'm saying that I don't see clear evidence that that is true. I just see it as a fundamental assertion.
If I can step in here for a bit, something I like to throw out there as an example with no solid connotation on it, just more a reflection of what we're hearing. I think kind of what we're getting to is kind of like was reflected in an episode. I don't know if anybody's a Doctor Who fan in here, but there was an episode of Doctor Who where he got stuck back in time. He's a time traveler and stuff like that, but he got stuck back in time where he didn't have access to his time machine, and he sent a message through secret codes and DVDs, and if you collected them up, you could piece the message together. And the thing, there was one point in the show where when they pieced enough of it when they pieced them all together and started playing them, it was as if the Doctor was literally talking to the people in the future, or I guess at the present. And it's like, how do you tell whether? And that's the thing, is like with life, how do you tell? Just like with life in that episode, how can you tell if somebody's actually talking to you, or you're just simply responding to a recording? And the same thing is here. When you try and classify something as alive and not alive, it's like you got to be very careful, because sometimes the mimicry in life, or the mimicry in something, can look like something else without actually being something else. But there are cases where it ends up being genuinely that. I don't know if that helps you guys at all, but I just thought I'd throw that out there because I thought it was a good reflection of what you guys were kind of talking about.
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, and my point is that we make the assertion that matter is unconscious, and we may be correct about that, but it's just an assertion. The guy, who is this? I'm forgetting his name. He runs the Allen Institute for. They're doing the connectome. They're doing the brain mapping. I'm trying to. His name is unimportant, but I was listening to this interview one time, and he just said something that stuck with me as a that's a good point. He said we see like gravity and the speed of light and atoms and so forth, and we just assume that they are ubiquitous throughout the cosmos. Like we think gravity is gravity, and that's what it is. And yet, when it comes to consciousness, somehow we make this arbitrary distinction. And he said, what if it's not? What if the entire thing is conscious at multiple different levels, maybe? But we have no reason to really rule it out other than an assertion. And I thought that was a pretty good point. At least I couldn't argue away that point. So it just stuck with me.
Well, then at that point, with that last bit you were getting there, you're getting actually awfully close to what, I don't know if any of you are subscribed to Anti-Citizen X's YouTube channel, but he recently put a challenge out there about, what is free will, and he had the whole thing is like if you had one entity with if you had two nearly identical life forms, and one had free will and one didn't, how would you be able to tell who had and who hadn't? And that's the thing. As I said, I have to admit, I do fall into the trap of liking to think that there's something magical, but you have to consider the possibility that there might not be something magical about our consciousness. Our consciousness might be just an emergent process, the same way our computers are, create an emergent process of an environment, of reality. Same way images and sound vibrations coming from my computer propose that I'm actually talking to other human beings. In the computer's case, I'm fairly certain I actually am, but
Yeah, and the guy's name is Christoph Koch. He's the President Chief Science Coordinator at Allen Institute Brain Science. So, and I'm not dropping a name. I'm just saying he's the guy that said that thing that really stuck in my head, and he wasn't making it as an assertion either. I don't think he was just saying that we shouldn't be so too quick to assert without foundation.
I would say that we've ruled it out for essentially the same reason we've ruled out the teapot floating around Jupiter. Is it impossible that a Martian society developed and threw their trash into space, and so there is indeed a teapot? Possibly, but it's something that's incredibly unlikely based on what we know.
Okay, when is the water? Okay.
Well, based on what we know, neurochemistry, the kind of neurochemistry that we have and that other animals on this planet exhibit, the only examples of this that we have, we see experience increase in complexity as neurochemistry increases in complexity, and we don't see any outliers. This is the only path. And so, is it impossible? No, but I think it's fair to rule it out as likely based on the same kind of reasoning as the teapot. We have no such example to think that this might be true.
Okay.
I don't think that microbes, for example, have an experience that is anything relatable to the kind of conscious experience that we have. The physiology just isn't there.
Yeah, you're making a connection between the complexity of physiology and the level of consciousness, which we can only make that assertion from our own perspective. I'm just saying that's again anthropomorphic.
It's not just from our perspective, but it's based on the evidence we have available, which is in all organisms we see kind of a two lines that ramp more or less together with both nerve and brain complexity increasing for conscious experience. I mean, we can physically chart this and map it, and I think that gives us not just one reason, but a whole series of varying environmental systems and types of physiology. I mean, it gives us a hell of a lot of data to say that this amounts to conscious experience or a more complex conscious experience. And so I would say that this is the reason they're generally ruling it out. And I mean, if an example pops up, science will change.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like it might be, until we discover a lot more, we won't really know. Like, I mean, there could be something that's recording our the whole universe's actions and categorizing it or whatever, and we'd never know. But until such time that we detect something, it's usually best to go, well, wait and see kind of attitude.
Yeah.
Just wait and see.
Approach the information with extreme skepticism.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have any plans to start playing cards with a rock. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I see the point, and I buy it. I was just saying, like, that thing stuck, and I went like, there are things which we just sort of assume. There's a fellow by the name of Rupert Sheldrake who made he wrote a book called, what the hell was it? Science Set Free, and he wrote down these assumptions that he claims that science has, that nature is mechanical, that matter is unconscious, that the amount of matter and energy are always the same, that nature is purposeless, biological inheritance is material, that memories are stored as material traces, the mind is the brain, and mechanistic medicine is the only kind that really works, the laws of nature are fixed, and telepathy and other psychic phenomena are illusory. And he said, he said that these things are all assertions. Now, whether or not he's right on all points or not, I don't know, but he brings up some pretty good arguments that some of the things, at least in science, that we lay claim to, at least in the scientific culture that exists today, may be something that we're just carrying as opposed to really have evidence for. And I think it's a good idea to challenge our fundamental assumptions. Although I do think science is the best we got for navigation. So where we're at right now is, I mean, that's what we have. That's our ore in the water. It's the best ore we got. Let's use it. But let's have some fun with it. And in fact, I think conversations like this get shut down whenever the argument goes back and forth between God and no God, and particularly the Abrahamic God and all of that. I think that we rob ourselves from having open discussions about where we are knowledge-wise as a human species, and even to start asking questions like, so if we learn these things and we don't apply them to making a better world, then what the hell are we doing it for anyway? Things like that. I'd like to have conversations like that, because I know people that learn a scientific perspective, but they still kind of act jerkish toward one another. I think that's a big problem. If we advance our technology to the point where we're moving to fulcrum that we can kill the golden goose that feeds us, and as opposed to learning to get along with each other and recognizing we live in a web of life that we have to nourish in order to sustain ourselves, then I have a problem with that. And I think that's the priority, that we should really work on some of the social stuff first. And, yeah.
I was going to say, don't get me wrong. Oh, I'm giving somebody...
That sounds like yummy goals, Mr. Carter. It truly does, and I say that most sincerely. That sounds like good vision, yummy goals. To a man in my position with a very mediocre IQ, I have learned to settle for much smaller goals, much nut and bolt goals. I may not be able to influence society or mankind, but I might be able to influence Candy. That's right. Or some other peep, some other zany peep on G+ in some good way, to be more reasonable or less freaked out or more healed up in some nut and bolt way that has nothing to do with God or the existence of God, but just very nutty and bolty. It's almost a very, very small goals. And I've learned to settle for those and to be very proactive in that front of just trying to encourage another single individual. And so I do salute your goals. I do salute your goals, but I also want to solicit your help in influencing G+ as a community, which you obviously do. You have positively influenced me, and I've heard your good words going out over G+. But I kind of guess I want to encourage you to see that you are doing good, even though you might not have the ear of Obama or the ear of world leaders or of cultural leaders, you know, the leader of that group or this group or the other group. But good work, Joe. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And,
Well,
Can I say this real quick?
I
Tommy,
was gonna say,
I would take some of your the last segment of your advice to put toward some of your first initial comments.
Mm.
You are every time you affect a person in one small way, and then you move on, you affect another small. You are affecting humanity. You are achieving this bigger, broader goal. You're doing
truly,
it.
Yes.
well coined. Well coined. Yes, sir.
okay, yeah.
We
If
all
I
do
can,
pay an influence, that's for sure.
I was just gonna quickly throw it. I was gonna say, don't get me wrong. I mean, I have no problems with, I mean, if you kind of believe something or whatever, I would encourage one to search. Like if you think there's something out there, look for it. That's what our whole society is built on. People having a vision, having a feeling, having a belief, and looking for it. I mean, we wouldn't have airplanes if it wasn't for people saying, I want to be like the birds, and with everybody else. I mean, if you have a certain feeling, belief, or whatever, I say explore it, look through it.
But
the only time I lay criticism or whatever is like when Tremblay says, tries to lay down I'm well justified because of this badly presented science thingy that justifies my position, and I say, before you say that I'm justified, you should actually make sure you're on firm ground. But that being said, there's nothing wrong with looking because I mean, things will never get found if people don't look.
But the point I heard Joe make was that oftentimes examination of or subjecting into contemplation these subjective, higher, supernatural, unprovable things pollutes positive consideration of what's very practical. What's very practical here now. And I think I heard Joe very clearly say that the interjection of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in some ways gets in the way of consideration of what's practical, good, rational, logical, and timely to consider as a group.
Imagine if the thousands of hours that have been spent on G+ to persuade the three Christians away from 6,000-year creationism to Jesus is real, but maybe the Earth has been here longer, were applied to citizen science, to some grassroots science, or how can we? I'm just saying that there's better ways to spend our energy that more efficiently that deal here and now.
Can I add to that? Well, because it's a good point, but I would also maintain that we are kind of still doing that. For me, the goal is very realistically to turn our humanity, society's mind towards science, the whole of society, right? Like in the Renaissance period, everything was about art and culture. We need a scientific awakening. We need society to move towards science and realize it. And we're not going to get there until we achieve some very basic things. Like people realizing that A equals A. A thing is what it is not what it is not, never is it both or neither, and there must be sufficient reasoning for all happenings. People have to understand good arguments and know how to recognize bad arguments and stop accepting bad arguments. Otherwise, you're going to do a bunch of damn bad science. If you can accept these propositions, I feel like you're more likely to go into science and make the same kind of errors. We need society as a whole to turn their mind towards science. The goal is to go out into space and explore, to learn more stuff, see how much we can learn, to find other planets, to populate them, to have multiple, colonies all over the place so that humanity becomes a permanent fixture in the universe. For me, those are like some of the highest goals humanity could have, and they're right now in our point in our life reasonably obtainable. And so if we can't get society to do this, then we're going to fail at that. A meteor's going to hit and wipe us out before we take that next step. Something is going to happen. We can't live here on this planet forever. We know that.
Can I ask you a question? Do you feel like science moves the fulcrum on our capacity to do more things? In other words, we can do more with science than we can with squinty-eyed prayer.
Basically, yeah, it's the most effective model of thought that we've ever developed. The most useful way of finding, or at least the most useful method of determining what is more likely true against what is more likely not true.
I agree with you totally, and that's the problem that I have with it. In the hands of a world that doesn't have a vested interest at enough of a cultural level in each other's success, science can be problematic for us and not necessarily propel us into a future. It's moving the fulcrum on our capacity to do things, but unless we instill in ourselves the notion that if you want to be really selfish in the world, have a vested interest in each other's success, because that's what makes it a better world. But we don't have that. We have this false notion of competing with each other kind of makes the thing tick. And that is not only incorrect, but it also, and we also have, and I would agree with you that there are problematic ideologies where people put ideas in front of actual life, and they'll kill each other for that. We need to address those things in a real and tangible way. I'm not sure, I'm not making an assertion that you're not agreeing with that part of it. I think you are working on that part of it, and a scientific bias is certainly appropriate to that end, but I do think that we need to more fundamentally treat each other better and find ways to treat each other better, find ways to demonstrate and model treating each other. We know that there are children in inner cities or out in the savannas and in Somalia and wherever that are not realizing their potential, not because we couldn't nourish their full potential and unlock the Einstein or the Carl Sagan that's inside of them, but we keep them below their threshold just because we don't. Not because we, it's not because we can't, it's because we don't. That's a problem. And if we have a more scientifically inclined technological world that is able to carry out more with less, and those are our values, that recipe is a little unsettling to me. And I'm not trying to be
I think you misunderstood a little bit of the principle that I was considering there. I mean, like, for me, I'm teaching my children the value of science, right? I'm not teaching them the facts of science. I'm teaching them the value of science and why science is so important, right? So that this next part of a generation grows up with this, passion for learning and understanding things. And as we continue to do that, children will do this on their own. They will, it goes from a society where it's only the top doing science and they're not teaching it at the bottom level to a bottom level up. People go into the higher sciences because at the bottom they're becoming passionate for science and understanding why it's so important. And so that's what I really meant by a society. You start at the bottom and you teach children to have a passion for learning.
Yeah, and you're making an excellent point.
If I could take both your guys' point and run with it a little. If I can take both of you guys' point and run with it a little bit, like, we're going to advance one way or the other, and to the degree we do need to reach a certain type of harmony, both a cooperative social harmony where we're treating each other better, making a better society, but also an intellectual harmony so that we can get more, so that we can start making better decisions, because we got big decisions coming up. We're pushing hard to try and get to Mars, and I know that seems like a big step that may never come, but if it does come, that's going to mean that our ability to expand out into the universe is just going to vastly increase. And we still got people who literally believe that, in fact, sadly enough, I'm ashamed to admit this, that we even had a university have a course teaching that vaccines were dangerous and that cancer was good. That cancer protected you. And if we got, and that's just an example. Let's not even include the various conspiracy theories, and all sorts. I mean, if we're going to go into space, you know, and deal with the things that we will come across out there, you know, are we going to be able to make good decisions when we got a portion of our population is literally teaching, as I said, teaching courseware that tells you that vaccines are bad and that cancer is good?
I think it becomes harder to argue for these pseudoscientific positions when there's people living on Mars. When the first generation of children grow up, I mean, think about us, okay? So my generation, with Nintendo, you know, really being like the first kind of genuine, I mean, Atari wasn't bad, don't get me wrong, had some good games, but Nintendo was clearly like something different, right? So my generation grew up with Nintendo and the video game systems that followed. That generation is a little different, fundamentally, from the one before, and the generations that have come since are radically different. They grew up in a world where like these incredibly powerful digital tools were available to them that weren't available to the generation before. You know, that weren't even available to us, someone my age. And when you consider that there's going to be a generation of children born, that from the day they're born, it's just known that there's other people living on another planet. I think that as society makes those steps, it becomes way harder to hold these pseudoscientific positions. And I don't think they'll go away. I think they're going to stick with us for a long time. We're going to have pockets of it for a very, very long time. But the effect on society diminishes. Every time we take a new scientific advancement, a major step that changes the next generation and how they grew up, it becomes harder to spread these ideas. And having people living on another planet is a pretty damn good indicator that science works.
I actually really hope that's so. I have to admit, this is where I'm going to be a little bit of a pessimist, because, I mean, considering our global transportation that we've had, you know, we have an international space station, we still got people like Hizbomb. Whether he's a Poe or not, I do not know, but I was in a hangout where he was literally a flat earther, and I mean, he's not unique.
Well, we're true, but per capita, I guarantee you there are less flat earthers now than basically ever before in history.
True.
Yeah, and also I kind of Matt Ridley has a good point about, he wrote a book called The Rational Optimist that said that we, you know, cooperation, when ideas have sex, we, you know, something better happens. That we would have never thought that we could support, you know, 7 billion people plus on the planet, and yet we are doing that, and there's a whole lot of good reason for optimism. But I also think that bankruptcy happens gradually all of a sudden, and we have to be concerned about that too. I'm just saying, I think our priority should be that we need to really spread from the grassroots upward. This vested interest in each other's success is the best way for us to ensure our future. That in the past, we had to create property and tribalism and so forth to protect ourselves and get through the dead of winter and the mini ice age and the famines and the diseases and all of that. But today, that same tribalism mentality, where you close off in your own little group and you believe whatever they say, and anything that's alien to that you attack as the enemy, is counterproductive. It is non-adaptive now, where it used to be adaptive. So that's my point.
First, I want to say I'm enjoying listening to you guys. You're fine minds. You're so articulate, and I'm enjoying listening to the conversation.
Man, I feel so humble. I'm just a layman here.
Hey, I'm not gonna knock science. Again, I'm like Tommy. I'm a man of a mediocre IQ. You know, I'm very pragmatic, very simple. You know, if I need to know something, if something comes up, I need to learn something to, you know, to meet a challenge, I'll do so. I'm, you know, of course, I see the benefits of science. Hey, I'm on a computer, loving it. Hey, I wouldn't meet you peeps, you know, if it wasn't for this technology, for this science. But as far as a end all for and be all of everything, um, and we're going to think that science in itself are going to solve all the answers of humanity, I think we're kidding ourselves. And this kind of, yeah, you can make the joke that, yeah, we have an International Space Center, but yet people believe in a flat Earth. It's kind of sad. We have an International Space Center and billions of dollars poured into a space program or even a military, and yet we have a large segment of our population that are living in poverty. They can't eat. They can't. They don't have a roof over their heads. Then they like no access to education, and that whole. I think unless and I'm speaking to your point, Joe, we groom, our awareness, our consciousness of others. That it's just not about me and just my, my family. Yeah, though they're important. It goes beyond that. Like I was sharing before, unless we see that we are all interconnected and start working together for the benefit of the whole, science ain't gonna do shit. I see science is like anything else. It's a tool, and we can use that tool, for good, for the benefit of everybody, or we can use it for bad, and use it as a tool to control and manipulate. And we see that done in some of the sciences. So yeah, that's what I have to say. So thanks for listening.
Well, I'm going to say, Brother John, you may say you're not intelligent, but I have to say you have a high degree of wisdom, just like Tommy has a high degree of heart.
I was thinking about this before I came on the chat, actually. Like, I was thinking about the Pluto mission and, like, things going forward, and how, like, smaller conversations that we have are, as humanity. And I was actually just looking out there thinking to myself, like, are we actually really the species that are going to go forward and, like, propagate the universe? Like, we need a couple of upgrades, a bit of bolt-on, like, I really don't think that we're the final form, and I can't see us making it with all our little petty squabbles and low intelligence and all this sort of hormonal bullshit and emotional problems with humanity and everything. I don't see it happening. I think it's going to be something that we create that's going to go forward. I think we're very specious to think that we are the ultimate evolution of the human species. I
agree with you there. I just think, if we can't be good stewards of the Earth that we have here and the population that's here, what makes us think we're going to do any better by being on Mars?
Well, I mean, but it depends on what you mean by good stewards. I mean, what is wrong with using all the resources that you want? I mean, like, so the kid in the candy store eats everything, it's just another way, I mean, it's just different ways the universe could go. There's no right way. Like, I mean, look at the creation of galaxies, and I look at, like, the absolutely unbelievable destruction that's going on in the universe on a cosmic scale, and it gives birth to other things, but maybe it doesn't. All you can do.
We are the ones that left this planet and went to the moon. Like, human beings left our little ball and went to the other ball. We are the ones.
We'd have the same problems. We'd have the same problems, like, as people and relating to each other, and you know what I mean. Like, we might have a different environment, but we wouldn't solve the human condition. The human condition will travel with us around the globe. It'll travel with us everywhere. It's our burden to bear. It's our nature.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't see the unlikelihood that it's within the realm of possibility. I mean, it's almost within our current technology. I mean, we are actually absolutely very, very close to being able to basically make a self-contained ship. Not that we would have the ability to travel all over the universe or anything, but right now we could make an ark.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it'd be a pretty shitty ark, and, like, it'd have, like, a couple lettuce leaves. And yeah, I mean, it's possible. Like, if you like Bill Gates got together a couple of billionaires, you could jet yourself off into space and maybe survive. But I mean, it wouldn't be like what you would want, like your hat and your beard and your whatever, like no internet, nothing. It wouldn't be It wouldn't be like here.
Because people do it for fun. They've actually, scientists and engineers have actually, I've seen some theoretical models for these that would basically orbit the sun. They would launch off, orbit the sun, have gigantic solar cells with basically elevators running the lengths of the main shafts for, spot repairs over the years. The ability to basically manufacture almost everything, provided they could do a couple of certain maneuvers here and there. They want to achieve a certain orbit where they could, I guess the concept is to use smaller little things to go off and obtain for long periods certain gases.
Yeah,
like Jupiter. I mean, they have proposed these models. They're actually kind of like.
Hold on.
We've got 3D printed robots that can make things in space with limited materials, and like you said, you could orbit the sun and all kinds of stuff. But I mean, we're going to come up with new technologies we can't even imagine. They're going to come.
Actually, I was going to say, what the true limiting factor, like, we, technically speaking, we do have the technology to do. Like, I mean, the first thing you need to get is a base on the moon. But the thing is we as a species have limited ourselves because we've chosen an economic system called capitalism. Now, don't get me wrong, capitalism has a lot of benefits, but one of the things that makes it a limiting factor is that for us to do something, there has to be a motivation that will, generate a financial return. And as I said, if we really, really wanted to, and money was not a factor, we could build a base on the moon now. I wouldn't say it would be the easiest task, but we have everything in our means to do it.
Yeah. I'm just saying, the argument that it's not going to be us, given the rate of evolution, unless something happens, we know that evolution rapidly speeds up, for example, when environmental pressures change in the extreme, or when population bottlenecks, meaning almost goes extinct, right? This happened to humanity once, and it probably was a driving force in a lot of our evolutionary adaptations today. So, but, we need time to make a massive change. And where we're at right now technologically, and where we're heading in our proposed advancement in the future, it's definitely going to be us that makes it into space.
Well, look, I mean, we're going to get somewhere, right? Like, we're going to get into, maybe send a couple of people to Mars or Pluto or whatever, but we're not suited biologically to go out, I mean, our intelligence and what we build, we'll go out there and do it because it's much more suited. Humanity, I don't know, man. Like, I just don't see it biologically. I mean, unless we adapt ourselves like in some kind of cyborg way and slowly replace ourselves, we can't even accelerate with the G-forces up towards the speed of light without, taking a couple of years to get there. It's just, we're not suited to do that. We're more of the planets. We're more of the people that will build things that will do that, I'm not saying we won't have a fantastic, experience, as humanity, but I think that we're just a little step in a progress going forward. So I wouldn't get any illusions of Star Trek of, humanity colonizing the galaxy. And
No, I'm not talking about humanity colonizing the galaxy at all. But I mean, being multi-planet, regardless, basically makes us, almost guarantees us a permanent foothold. If we get to 3 planets, 4 planets, 5 planets, human colonies on just 5 planets, even if it was like an atmospheric colony on Venus, a colony on the moon, a colony on Mars, we're basically almost assured a humanity.
I mean, look, no matter how bad Earth gets, it's not going to be worse than the worst planet, the best planet we can go to. Like, I mean, like the idea that humanity needs to survive by, spreading across planets. Humankind's Earth will never be fucked up worse than the best planet you can go to. Mars, the moon, the rest of them. You have a nuclear war on Earth, it's still going to be better as a place to live in multiple places than other planets. Those kind of things, I think, I don't really see why we would do it other than curiosity. I mean, look, I could be proven wrong. Maybe there's some...
Explain why. Wait, listen, let me finish what I was saying a second ago. So if you can get a base on Mars, if you can get a base on the moon, if you can get a base on Venus, right, a stable human colony. It's not just like a couple of people. I'm talking about a colony, a population that's a permanent fixture, a colony. right? It's a very distinct. I'm using that word in a very distinct way. A self-contained population, enough to be diverse and thrive. If you can do this, no matter what happens, one of them gets hit by something, humankind survives. That's the point.
I don't think Earth is facing any existential threats that will wipe out its viability here on Earth. So the best thing we could do is to focus, on how humanity can survive here, rather than looking, to alternate planetary systems where we have to build everything, including an atmosphere, from scratch. I'm saying in a curious way, interesting.
No, you don't. It's not that complicated. You don't have to do that. I mean, you don't have to build atmospheres. And I mean, this is the same thing we do on the moon. The kind of base they're proposing on the moon, you can basically put on almost any planet.
But I was saying, why would you? I mean, like, when you Earth.
Hang on. And so since taking that information into account, the point is that if we want the potential for a biological organism to maybe make it out there into interstellar space one day, which maybe the advancements to travel at the speed of light are beyond human abilities, and it won't be us that makes that advancement. But if you want humanity to have a chance at surviving that long, you need to spread the population out to other planets. Planets, things happen. Unexpected things happen. There could be a microbe pop up tomorrow that just dominates the planet. It happened here before. That's how we have an oxygen atmosphere. Because a single microbe dominates the fucking atmosphere.
It'd be a little easier to wall off a section of the Earth, or just have like a thing, instead of going to another planet and doing it. Like, what you're talking about is really like some kind of exodus in order to have a quarantine from some bad thing on Earth. It'd be a lot cheaper and easier to build it here on Earth, no matter what it is. The reason that we would explore space is for the unknown and for curiosity. So, I mean, it's exciting.
Right. No, that's the point. You're giving me my points, and I'm explaining that point to you, and that's what you're missing. That's the point I'm explaining. Not because of any singular thing, not because of a virus or quarantine. That was one hypothetical. It's because of all of those things. Because of all of those things. If humankind wants the opportunity to get out into interstellar space, you will not do it from one planet. It's not going to happen. We already know right now, realistically, like Earth, the amount of change we would have to do to the Earth in order to even potentially mine up the basic resources. Just let's say build a small version of a starship that could just go from one planet to another and back really easy and stay in space, not even leave the system. Like, we would have to basically transform the face of the Earth to the point we would see it from space everywhere. We don't want to do that from here, right? We're not talking about building those kind of. Hang on, let me finish. We're not talking about building those kind of things from Earth. No one wants to do that. We're against strip mining as it is. If you want to build large things in space, you have to basically have multiple planets. You have to have a planet like, say, Mars, where there's no reason not to just mine the fucking fuck out of it.
Actually, all you need is the moon, as I said. Once you get to the moon and get a base, so the cost of launching something from the moon is so cheap compared to the Earth.
It's rubbish. Space exploration is intensely expensive. Like, you've got some good ideas with, like, but I think you're sort of looking at planet Earth like it needs to be protected. Humanity needs to leave and go somewhere else so it doesn't hurt the Earth or something like that. Like, I mean, it doesn't work like that. It's exorbitantly expensive. To even try and launch humanity from other planets is an absurd idea from itself. Like, it's an alien, hostile, freezing cold environment with maybe a couple of people living on a small mollusk with, some fading sunlight coming through, with UV radiation all over the place. It's just, it doesn't work like that. I don't understand.
We're having some basic communication errors. So what I'm observing here, and I pointed this out last time, it seems like you're taking a singular point and expanding it as if it's the singular justification for all of these things, and each one of the things you list off are because of this, and that's not what's being said. And I'm wondering, like, where the language breakdown is happening.
You see,
I'll listen for a while and I'll catch up with the conversation.
Like a colony ship is if we can get a base on the moon, building a colony ship is not that hard, because you dig deep enough in the moon, you're protected from most of the radiation, and the moon's got plenty of resources.
Rock.
And in fact, that's the one thing a lot of companies want to get a hold of. There's resources up there that a lot of places on Earth would like to get a hold of. So, once our demand for like platinum and other metals gets high enough, we will eventually go there. And once you get there, then the next thing that becomes possible is asteroid mining. And that's what it's going to be. What was it said? I think you just need I think 2 or 3 meters, I'm not sure how many feet that is, of concrete to give you enough radiation protection. Or, as some people have found out, is if you can create a sphere, if you can create a shell of water, you should have, not the best radiation shielding, but sufficient enough to transport people from one place or another. And as I said, once you got a base on the moon, asteroid mining becomes a whole lot easier. You can get the payoff of getting the minerals, shipping them back to Earth to the companies that want them, and using the other minerals that you could take to build, a ship. There's plenty of water in comets and asteroids, and it's just a matter of doing it. That's the only limiting factor. And as I said, considering the rate that precious metals are going up and up and stuff like that, it's just a matter of time before it becomes tempting. I don't know if I made any sense, but that's what I have to say. I might disappear here in about 10 minutes or so, so I just wanted to get that out, because it's just a matter of whether the side benefits reach a point where we say we want to go for it. Once the side benefits become, something that, hey, it's cheaper to do that than to, dig up fields of mountains to try and get the same amount of whether it's platinum, iridium, or whatever material you're looking for. So
I wanted to kind of paint a narrative to kind of explain what I was talking about.
Go.
If you allow me a couple minutes.
Sure.
So imagine this, right? We send up the basics of a colony, right? The first man pods to Mars. And let's just say that we're already at the point where we're sending up almost enough for a colony. And the basic premise is we've dug in, right? As he pointed out, I heard him earlier as I was leaving to go get my drink, that rock shields us from the radiation. Even if you did this on the moon with no atmosphere at all, you dig in. And we're great at that, actually. And then you can still access resources. And so anyway, the point being is that that's kind of where a colony starts, right? And then you slowly build up the raw materials from a planet like this, where you can easily begin transport between planets. And that's the idea of putting the large things in space: big solar cells, cheaper energy, etc., etc. And this is the basics of interplanetary network that kind of makes us immune to any kind of immediate natural threat, no matter what it was. And it gives us the foothold humanity needs to become a prolonged species. We're talking about a species that makes it as long as the goddamn dinosaurs did. Okay? Right? And then and remain technologically advanced anyway. With this kind of interplanetary travel, just right here in our system, with, say, these 4 basic colonies that I listed off earlier, this Earth, Mars, Venus, and the Moon, we have a real shot at a prolonged existence and enough scientific advancement to build real spaceships, even if it's not us that makes those final discoveries, because we've existed in this interplanetary way for thousands of years to make those advancements. And maybe by then we are changed significantly.
And don't forget, just to add in, don't forget, once you have another colony, the financial pressures to develop travel better travel between one and the other is lucrative.
Yes. The scientists are lucrative. In this kind of existence, science becomes lucrative. Scientists become the fucking heroes and the rock stars of society. Because they're the one that makes the advancements that change everyone's lives very, very rapidly. Bam, we finally built the ship. You know, we've had the biggest team of scientists and engineers working on this ship for fucking, 14 years, and, we finally got a ship that can give people the cheapest fares between Mars and Earth and Venus, and, we do the whole loop in 10 days. The kind of pressures to push toward that become extremely lucrative, and the science required from a society that's doing these kind of things, it comes in high demand. The need to educate children from the bottom much better becomes in high demand. I think it inspires humanity toward a lot of these big advancements that we really ultimately all desire.
Yep. No, I completely agree, because as I said, once you have something to go to, and then it's just a matter of time before somebody with an ambitious idea decides to build a shielded colony ship and make a multi-generation journey to another star system. I mean, it just, because we'll have the technology by then, so then it's just a matter of somebody finally getting up enough gold to do it.
And those transport technologies will drive people to, there might be like suddenly just a couple of weeks. It's almost like a cruise to go out to Pluto. Let's go check out Pluto. Okay, let's take a week off.
Close to it, yeah. But as I said, once we've been traveling for any degree, I mean, then the technology's there. Like we could, if we really had to, if a black hole was coming to interrupt our system, and we had, like, I don't know what was that show, 20 years to do it, we could literally limp our way to another system if we had to. That would be a desperation thing, and it would require a severe disaster like that. But we have the rudimentary technology to do that. It would be like a ship sailing across the sea, made out of cheap reed or flimsy reeds tied together with bowstrings and stuff. But if you had to sail across the sea, get enough water reeds together and just get enough vines and stuff, if you had to, you could do it. And that's where we are right now. If we had to, we could do it. But the minute we improve at all, I mean, you'd have to argue literally that we can't improve anymore to say that we'll never make it out to the stars.
We also have the ability right now to catalog our biosphere. Not everything in Earth's environment, human biosphere. Basically everything that impacts us, from the microfauna on our food to our digestive systems, right? We haven't done it, but we absolutely have the ability to do it. We have a pretty comprehensive list of those things already. It's just not complete, and we know about a lot of the others. But it wouldn't be outside of our ability to completely catalog that and basically take the human requirements for environment everywhere we go. There are things around us that are dangerous, like mold. But in some ways, we need those things to survive, because the things around us need those things to survive.
And don't forget, we're also editing life. I mean, it's really crude. It's kindergarten level, I mean, like, as in the terms of creating life, but we've been modifying organisms. I mean, I hate to use the anti-GMO people as this, but the anti-GMO people complain, we put this and that and sort of things, but they're way off basis. But I mean, it's not. We do actually modify organisms now. I mean, we can make rats and cats that glow under UV light.
Why shouldn't we edit life, man? I mean, we've been doing that for generations. We've been breeding different crops. We've been breeding stuff with animals. We're trying to make stuff better. I mean, we try and alter our environment. We wear clothes. We build houses. We have air conditioning. You know, we have vehicles. I mean, we're constantly modifying life. We have glasses. We have false teeth. You know, so what? So we're evolving. Big deal. I think it's a great thing.
No, I agree. I just using them proof that, you know, using them because, you know, they make it known that we are doing this. I was just using them as, you know, proof. So I didn't say I agree with them. Like, I disagree with them, you know. But you know.
Would you agree, though, that part of the equation for doing all of this is being able to get along a little better would also benefit us along the way of increasing our technology?
I would say yes, and I'll let other people answer as I take off here. It was great talking with you. I actually love talking with everybody, even if I seem to be disagreeing with you. I still actually like the disagreement. I'm weird that way. But thank you for everything. I want to rest up before my hangout. So take care, everyone.
Thanks for dropping by, Opal, and maybe I'll see you over on your hangout later.
Sure. I'll try to make sure to invite you. So if not, bug me. Bug me in about another hour and a half.
See you later.
Not a problem. But yeah, Joe, yeah, I would agree. I mean, goes back to my point earlier, you know.
James, your evil twin was in earlier, but he just left.
Have an evil twin?
Oh, well, yeah, apparently. A clone came right in and just left right before you came in.
Oh, that was me trying to get in. I was having issues over here.
Oh.
I see. How y'all doing tonight?
Good, James. Welcome. How
Thank
you
you.
doing?
Very good.
Glad to finally get in.
Yeah, it seems like it's been a while, man.
I've been out of town. I took my son back to mom for the summer. They had moved his date up a bit to come home because he's starting the STEM classes, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So he's going to a camp to kind of get up on the skills before he starts high school. So I had to take him home early. I've been gone all day and horrible drive, and really good to be around some good folks this evening. Hi. So there's my story. What are y'all up to?
Yeah, we're talking just about that right now. Science, technology, and space exploration.
As my son leaves. Yes.
Yeah. Another thing on I don't know if this is taking us down a rabbit hole, but I think we're crossing a threshold with science right now where the machines are able to replicate machines, and increasingly it's putting downward pressure on the necessity for human beings to apply themselves to manual labor, and or at least, you know, involuntarily apply themselves to manual labor and stuff. We're going to need to really think about, I think, what we're going to need to do to occupy ourselves constructively as the machines are able to do more and more for us.
Well, we're probably going to have surplus people. We'll have surplus people, and we'll just get rid of a whole bunch of them because we don't need them anymore.
Like, what are we're going to put them in a box?
Kill them off. Yeah,
I'll buy some.
People who actually like have control of the political systems and Wall Street, they'll just go, we have too many people, just kill them off. We don't need them.
I'll buy
Maybe not kill them off, but like just discard them. I mean, we don't need them. You know, it's like we do with the population. With the other speaker was talking about before in the hat. You know, is concerned about the environment and stuff. Like they'll do the same thing with humanity. They'll just go, we just too much of them. Fuck them. Like just I don't know, let them die or whatever. Like
I'll buy a few. I could use some yard work. The house needs painting, that kind of thing.
Well, see, America and the first world is a very poor reflection of humanity. Like, it's this very small percentage of the population that live in a first world middle class life. And if you look at the broad sweep of humanity across the ages of thousands of years, and even if you look at them now, they live in an appalling life, you know, and it'll probably just get worse. You know, it's just a broad sweep of history. It's my prediction. So we're living in very privileged times to be able to like sort of I don't know, just crap on about, you know, what might happen in the future. I'm just glad I'm living my own life now.
Hey, just because we're rich doesn't mean we're guilty. You know, it's a wonderful time to be alive.
Oh yeah, I'm not trying to lay any guilt trips on anybody or anything like that. I'm just saying be grateful.
Indeed, be grateful.
Yeah, I'm just saying that human beings are social creatures, and we should probably anticipate how we fit in. I don't think we did quite as good a job when the Industrial Revolution came about. There was some of the Luddites that wanted to sabotage the machine, so to speak. I think it was in the sewing industry and whatnot. But we had some bumps there. We would do well to anticipate and even cultivate something positive for us to apply our energies to.
Yeah, but look how right the Luddites were. I mean, they had a viable, particular place in society where they had a job, they had a role, and now they've been displaced. I mean, over time it's continually going. And it's okay for someone like me. Like, I'm on the cusp of technology. I run an IT company. I'm fine, right? But what about everybody else who doesn't do that? They're not. So they're attracted to these philosophies, these ideologies. They're played off endlessly, and a political game of a complexity that beguiles a kaleidoscope of interpretation, but at its root, has its grasp into power. It just wants to control things, and take away people's ideas and thoughts. But I very much appreciate your thoughtfulness, and I wish there was more people like you that were a little bit more reasoned and philosophical thinking, on their back burner. Like, this stuff's happened before, how can we prevent it again? I mean, that kind of thought would actually lead to a functioning democracy, which we're never going to have because democracies don't function. But yeah, I appreciate the thought, and it's a good way to think.
Yeah, I'd like to translate that vision into action somehow. Don't quite know how, but I do think that it needs to happen grassroots. In other words, top down, we haven't been very successful. But for instance, people ask me, what do you think would work better, capitalism or socialism? As if they're, I think what would work better is if people had a vested interest in each other's success and recognized that wealth comes from that sharing. That the only real wealth we have at all is the collected, the accumulated sharing over the centuries. And so
the problem is that the problem with that thinking is that there's always a vested interest in breaking up those very successful collectives. I mean, if you even just look at modern history, maybe after the Second World War, you've got a bunch of people who came back from the war who invested in collectives. To give an Australian example, you've got things like the NRMA, the Motoring Association, who got together and helped people fix their cars. You've got the mutual banks, who actually just are building societies, who just pulled their funds together, the credit unions. Then you get the monetary system come through and smash them all, over time, after the post-Bretton Woods system, which basically tries to concentrate all the banks together in a fiat currency, which they manipulate and control as private banks. So
that was my point. The only change that will ever come to bear for real will come from the bottom up. It won't come from the top down. And
it did come from the bottom up. I mean, after the war, people got together and formed mutual societies. That was a bottom up movement, where disaffected people came together after the Second World War and said, look, we're going to rebuild houses, we're going to rebuild institutions, we're going to rebuild cities, we're going to lend each other money. It was like a makeshift thing, that all bonded together and they went forward, and that was great. And then the monetary system broke that up later, and it's definitely. I mean, you can look at all kinds of attempts, like the union movement, right? I'm no big union guy, but I mean that's an attempt to bond together. There's other attempts as well on the left, but the left generally fails because they can't deliver on their promises. They have all these grand ideas, but then eventually somebody has to pay, and it just falls flat. So,
wouldn't it be nice to get rid of money, have a society and no money, maybe a currency of just our time and our talent?
Pipe dreams.
I know. There's always gonna be somebody or a group of somebody who wants to have control.
Until society absolutely has no more shortage of resources. Just resources. What do we want to build today? You know, until society has reached that point, which is way the hell beyond where we're at, money just can't ever go away. It'll never happen.
I think that there's a good possibility that free trade will always remain in one form or fashion. I'm not sure if money will always be. Not in the way that it is today, where it's pretty much you have to have it. But
micro societies might spring up where money is relatively de-emphasized. You know, there might be a club or two, or a commune or two, or a family or two, or a farm or something or two. You know, a group.
A lot of people are moving to that.
Where it might be
anything illegal, but you know,
thinking about trying to convert the whole U.S. population into a moneyless culture or society, that might be a bit ambitious, but maybe something smaller. It could happen maybe.
How is that illegal? I'm curious.
Somebody found
the Idol?
Illegal, no doubt.
Idol, did you say it was illegal?
Well, there have been times if you trade without giving the government their cut, yeah.
Well, yeah, that's what the revenuers were all about, down south.
Mm-hmm. Because of the corn liquor trade.
They traded raw milk, and
you realize communities exist that do this, right? With the government's endorsement, they're everywhere.
Yeah, I know.
Well, no, they do it with the government's endorsement, right? And so there's been several. I forget what happened, like in the 50s or 60s or 70s. I don't know exactly when this legislation, but it basically gave people the right to apply as a community that they can go and appropriate so much land, well, not appropriate, but if they own land and they can form these communities where like you don't have to go get driver's license and they still drive on their own roads inside the community. Now you still can't go out onto the publicly owned, publicly taxpayer funded roads, but they have roads all through these communities that people drive on every day without driver's license and all that stuff. I mean, they have basically, yeah. I mean, these kinds of communities.
Land, when you're outside of sovereign land, it's difficult. Then
it is illegal. But I mean, that's taxpayer, funded stuff, and so taxpayer-funded government controls it. I mean, I don't know. To me, it seems fair.
Say, can you tell me a little bit about what's going on in secular TV? I'm interested in what that's all about.
Well, secular TV operates like a TV station on YouTube. It has a variety of shows from different points of view. The people that produce all the shows, we don't even all agree with each other on stuff. We have someone who's like, say, pro-life, and a lot of us are pro-choice. We have feminists and non-feminists, and I think we might even have one MRA, men's rights advocate. We have just a mosh pit of opinions making independent shows from one channel. We use the network and its viewer base to promote their shows. They come on, they plug their own stuff. Godliness Engineer's got his own channel and his own website, and he plugs that when he does his show. I've got my own channel and my stuff, and I often plug it when I do my show, etc. And so basically, it's a platform and that for people to learn, a place to learn to do shows, and to begin a launching pad for like an online personality career, I guess, if you will. Someone who enjoys doing this kind of stuff and wants to, do it more often, do it at a regular time, advertise, etc. We teach people how to do editing, we basic graphics. We recommend certain free programs that'll kind of help you get started. And then if you want to get into paid programs, we have a few recommendations, hardware recommendations, all this kind of stuff. We show people how to, do more advanced stuff like open broadcast software to produce shows. and Secular TV as a network does not attempt to profit. It's publicly funded, but it doesn't profit off of any of the content creators directly in any way. We have a Secular TV t-shirt store, and then we have independent stores for other content creators, but they take 100% of those profits. If they get a sponsor, they take 100% of those profits. We don't run ads on the videos. The only ads would be ads read by the host that they got paid directly for. And so,
sounds good. And so, is there an overall vision for what you're trying to convey? As it sounds to me like there's a push to create more quality content to present a scientific perspective. Is that a fair statement, or is it something else, or
the network itself is a place for secular-minded content creators to either learn or help someone else learn. I mean, we got people like the Godless Engineer who didn't need our help, right? And he's still not only one of the content creators, he's part of the leadership later on. He became part of the leadership, and he designed our website, pro bono, etc. He does it because his advice toward younger content creators, newer content creators, is pretty invaluable. He's had some success. A guy like Pimp Monk with 8,000 or 9,000 subscribers, he offers advice to a lot. I've taken a couple of them directly under his wing and talks to them constantly, teaching them how to basically just do this stuff better. There's a lot of different little aspects to it, how to deliver jokes, how to do this. And so he acts in an advisory capacity. So there's a place for brand new, our focus is to find brand new content creators, mostly. People who don't do shows or produce shows regularly, and teach them how to do it, those that are interested, and just, like I said, be a launching pad for them. But we also reach out to medium and larger. I mean, Lee Lemon, for example, is a content creator, Secular TV. She does Tea with Lemon on Secular TV, and it's the most popular thing on Secular TV right now. By the way, with my show running second, she's kicking my butt. But no, it's a great show. It's a fantastic concept that she does over there. So, you know, and
each show stream on seculartv.com is
they're on YouTube. The website is not so advanced. We're getting there though. Right now, John's changing it over to something else so that we can get. We got 3 other people who have volunteered to help code, and so once we have the 4 of these eyes on the website, it's going to become something much larger than what it is now. But right now, it's just a mirror of the videos and some fancy graphics. It looks cool though.
Cool.
Are you on Roku yet? Do you have a channel on Roku?
No, not on Roku. All the shows are on YouTube and the website, but eventually the website will grow to where it'll be both a mirror of anything that happens on Secular TV and possibly a platform to take those files and have some automatic way to hopefully transition them to other platforms, or at least some minimal interaction in order to do so. So once we have that set up, we'll expand to other social medias that do video hosting. There's like YouNow and some other places we looked at where we'll expand to Vimeo and I guess Roku perhaps. I don't know, but right now we still need a lot of stuff because it's a nonprofit. I mean, we're right now I own it, and I'm actually responsible for all the taxes as well, and the taxes for other people's T-shirt sales. So it kind of sucks. So we have our primary Patreon goal is to become a nonprofit. So we're working with a company called the Foundation Group, who has done nothing but build nonprofits since 1990. And so they're very reputable, and they also have their own training program. During the whole first year, they're basically going to interact with myself and my wife, who is the accountant now for Secular TV, and teach us everything we need to know about maintaining the nonprofit compliance and et cetera, et cetera. So we need $4,000 to become a nonprofit. We have roughly almost a third of that funding now.
Do you have a Patreon for that, or is there a...
Secular TV on Patreon.
Okay.
So, yeah, and like I said, it's also in the link of all of our videos, and it's on our Facebook page, and it might even be on
Mike Phelps works with you, right? I just
He used
started.
to.
Oh, yes, okay. Because I remember
Yeah,
him pushing Secular TV a while ago. It was,
yeah.
but he's not part of it no more.
No,
Okay.
he's had a lot of stuff come up personally, and I think he just needs
Okay.
time off and time away. So no,
Right.
he's not
That's
currently.
great. I love this. This sounds great. I will definitely check it out.
And
Well, go ahead. You want to say something else, Jason?
no, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Well, with that, hey, we're coming up on the 2 hour mark here, and then I usually don't like to go beyond that. So, for those listening now or in the future, yeah, check out Jason, the Foxhole Atheist, Secular TV. Check out their YouTube channel. See what they're doing, and if you like what they're doing, definitely support them. You know, it's we're always in need of really some good, different content, and so check that out. Guys, any last words before I take this sucker off air?
I just wanted to say that, Jason, the things that you're doing are exactly what I'm talking about. We as a world need to do is that,
Awesome.
people getting together and recognizing that sharing back and forth creates a wealth. In this particular case, a wealth of knowledge and sharing in a lot of different areas. So, well done.
Yeah, well done. And good luck with that endeavor. All right, with that, I'm gonna go off air. I mean, the discussion will continue. We got one viewer out there, but if you want to join us, the link's in the event page. And thanks again, guys.